Okay, then let us add now the ability for the user to get the weather forecast data. What we want to do is for that we now adjusting the weather card, because at the moment it should always or shows always the forecast data, and that's not totally right, because we want to show in the forecast always the next days and not the same data that we already have in the header. For that we adjusting now this to be an if condition, and this one, yeah, okay, we firstly creating an object that, yeah, like gets the data for us from the components. We will create for that a weather future forecast object that is a computed signal, and in this one we turning this dot weather data, which means we're getting the data that we already have here, which means we're using a computed of a computed. And if this one is defined and changes, we want the weather data, and what we want from that is that we kind of get the elements after the first element, because the first one of the weather data would be the weather of today, but we want to have at least all elements that are for the next days. And what we now can check is if this data set, this signal, has a length bigger than 1, it should show this weather forecast. And also we're now providing this one to our forecast component. We're changing this one now to have like getting an array of few cards, because as you can see it, this component at the moment have 1 element, and here we should then use a for loop to go over our weather card day forecast, and then can use array forecast for 1 day in the visuals. So what we now have is that okay, yeah, fine. And as you can see now, we don't have any forecast at the moment, because we only loading 1 data set. And the idea now is to making an else section here that containing like a container that is a flex container with a little bit of padding at the top, justify content center, like aligning all elements in the center of this div element. And inside of this we will have again a button. In this case I will quickly copy a button. Oh no, that one here. We have again to import the mat icon inside of this imports here. Mat icon module, ready to learn Angular 19, 20 and 21. This course covers everything new in this latest versions, from hydration event replay, resource API, signal forms, we cover it all. You will get a complete Playground app showcasing all features. Plus, we will build a weather app from scratch to implement everything hands-on. Full source code for both projects included. Check the link in the description. And here we now want to allow the user to getting the new future forecast data. We will firstly remove this line that you can see how it looks like at the moment. And the plan is that if the user clicks on this icon, it should then add like the full set of 4 future days. And then, we should be fine. Okay, then let us continue with allowing the user to add this data. We're doing this by writing new code for the service, because we want now to allow the user to add this stuff by going into the data service and writing a new function. We name it load forecast for location. This will contain the city key or the location name. We can also name it like that. And in this, we firstly want to get the lat and longitude from our location. We can do this by getting in our weather forecast store and can take a look into our specific location, and there will be a location that have the lat and longitude. This is like a possibility in TypeScript which allows you to like get the single values from an object as separated variables. This function will be relatively similar to that one. We will copy it here because this is a good base for us. What we now want is that we want to have 30 elements, 30 time stamp counts. The reason for this is that the Open Weather API giving us one data point per 4 hours. And if you sum up the 4 hours by 5, it will be a sum of 30. And then we can like get 5 data sets out of it for a specific time frame that allows us to get the data even better. Okay, as I said, it's relatively similar. We use our location name. We will, like most of the time, we use our current data for this, which means because this one only should extend our data set to have the needed weather sets. We want also to use like most of the data that we already have in the store for that location, and only want to extend the weather data. What we now can do, because this list now containing much more information, before here on the top it only has one element all the time because we defined here that we want only one. And here we're now getting 30 elements, which means we has to check or go over the list to see what elements or what of the 30 timestamps we want to have. What we will do is we will use from the list the first element will be the most newest or the most current date, which means we will use this always. But for that list, we will firstly go over and filter it. And we use for the filter the timestamp, which means we're creating a date element, making a new date, because we want to know when we'll name it like single forecast or something like that. And here we have this date. It's again in seconds, not in milliseconds, which means we have to multiply it by 1000. And then we can like filter based on specific needed information. What we will need that we know, like that we have the next day, we have to check also or create an object for the current date. We will create here today, which is a new date. And here now we can check if today dot get date not equals our date here, because this means we want to filter out the elements for the same date. Also important, that's like for my case, you can of course adjust it. We want to have the dates to be hourly in between 10 and between 10 and 13, because the timestamps are 4-hour timestamps, which means we want the timestamp that are between that 4 hours. What we then will do is similarly what you have done here. We map the rest of it with our transformer. Forecast to use. This one we will directly go over our function to make this conversion. This one is also a shorter way to write a function that returns a specific value. Here you can see that this value returns something, and if you're not writing this curly brackets around it, you're telling TypeScript that this is the return value that you want. Okay, we have still something left. We have the current value. Oh yeah, I think we have forgotten this one. And what is important, if you have an array, like this one is a single element in the array, but this results in an array, and we have to spread that one. That means we like going over the result of this filtering and mapping, and then we want every element to be like also one element in our weather data. Okay, it still says that we have missing properties, but oh yeah, it could be here. Yeah, I think we also need to insert this one. I think, oh yeah, now it's fine. Nice. Okay, now we have our 30 timestamps, and we have a function that helps us with loading the data. What we also can do with this function, because we're replacing the first match, we can like name it load or refresh forecast data for location, because we can later use the same function to reload the today weather and the future weather. Okay, now we have the function, which means we can go in our main page and create a function like load forecast for location. And we have a location key with type string, and then we can call our new function load or refresh, that one. So what we also will do is we will adjust our data model. This one we can quickly make empty because the data not are really realistic, and we can go with like creating now own cards. What we also will adjust is the forecast view data. No, we will use here a new key that we can like defining that this one the user have clicked for extended forecast, which means in the future if we reloading the card, we should know if we should load at least one or multiple entries. Okay. Now we will here, if he adds a forecast location, it will be extended forecast be false. And if we extend it, we want to have extended to be true. For later, we then know if we has to load multiple forecasts or only one. Now we want to have the weather card to, again, have a second output that says like load week forecast. Again, giving the string, and we will create a function at future forecast as a computed and here a function, not computed, sorry. We will create a function here, and this says this dot load this one, and then again as one line above be like weather key. So like the same as you can see below. And this one then will here be called by that one. Click add future forecast. So I think, are we finished? Not totally sure. Let us take a look. We're searching for bar. Have Barcelona, click on plus. Now we have the one weather forecast, but if we click here now, okay, currently nothing happens. Then let us quickly look if I have saved everything. We have this one, we have this one. This emits load forecast. Okay, that's currently not get used by our main page here. Load, and here again we're using the event value. Okay, now we can take a look again, searching for Barcelona plus, and now you can see we have a lot of entries. The reason for this is that our filtering has now an issue, but we can see here that we get 30 elements, and I think there's currently an issue with the filtering of the entries, but that could be potentially be like an an option to see like at least much more. But you can see we have 3 entries for Sunday, 3 for Monday, 3 for Tuesday. And we will now take a look what's the reason for that. Okay, in the weather data, we can quickly check. Oh yeah, the problem is that I have defined the hours to be bigger than 10 and the hours to be bigger than 14. And yeah, that's the that's the case if the entry is like over 14. Okay. Again, searching for bar. Find Barcelona, click on plus, click on this one. So you can see Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And depending on the time you are, it could be that you have more. We can quickly check what happens if we increase this by, for example, 12, because 6 entries are equal 1 day. I'm currently not sure if the Open Weather API allows this, but we will see it. Yeah, okay. And with this, we now have the weather forecast for Barcelona. We can, of course, for example, use New York. Click on plus, can click on this one. As you can see in New York, now we have like much worse weather. Yeah, and also, for example, Berlin. So, what you also can see here is that we currently have a styling that not is good enough. We can quickly fix this by making a flex web, I think. But yeah, I mean, what you also can see, and that's the part that we want to fix in the next part, that the entries not get saved, which means you like adding it one by one, and then it could be that. So, and what was it? New York, I think. That the data is like not persistent. Yeah, as you can see now, we are using the view even better. But as you can see, like if we're reloading this page, we have no data left, which means that's like the end of this part. In the next part, we will take a look on how we can save this data, persist it, and how we can reload the data when you like revisit the page after a few days.